Pretend you're a monk way back around the year 1060, and the abbot of your monastery is a really great guy. He's very devoted, very inspirational, and very helpful. But then one day, he runs off and disappears. Again. He's already done this, just a waiting game until he's found and returns. Finally, he comes back. He continues living his life like he had done before, nothing really crazy going on. Could you really blame the guy, though, for being targeted just for doing his job? I might run away too if I got arrested for doing my job. But this guy has a lot to teach still. A whole lot to teach. Howdy all, and welcome back to another episode of the Sanctified Podcast, the show where we explore the stories of various saints throughout history and learn about what they did and how we came to recognize them as saints today. Today, we're going to explore the life of Saint Walter of Pontoise. He didn't really want his job, but he was too good at it to be allowed to leave. And sorry if I mispronounced Pontoise a little bit. I tried looking up how to pronounce it. I'm doing my best. But anywho, Walter of Pontoise, or Poitiers in his native language, was born in Andainville in Picardy, France, in the 11th century around the year 1030. Growing up, he was fortunate enough to obtain a pretty good education, which was something that not everybody got at the time, and he eventually became a professor of philosophy and rhetoric, which is kind of interesting, because you don't necessarily associate a philosopher with a major religious person. But a lot of famous philosophers in history aren't remembered for their religion, even though they mostly did come to faith in the end. It's just not as popular to share that part of their stories. After serving as professor for a little while, Walter decided to join the Benedictine Abbey of Rebais-en-Bray, which, again, sorry if I mispronounced that. While he was a novice at the Benedictine Abbey, he took pity on an inmate that he came across one day and helped him to escape. The details of the escape are lost, but there are still some records to indicate that it did happen. Walter felt that the prisoner was unjustly being held, so he helped him get out. They built a plan together and executed it. Also, while at the Abbey, Walter must have proved to be a very devoted person because, though we don't have explicit records of his life there, we do know that King Philip I appointed Walter as the very first abbot of a brand new monastery at Pontoise. Whether or not the king knew about the prisoner escape plan and overlooked it, or just didn't know about it, or didn't care, whatever, we don't really know. But we do know that he wanted Walter as abbot. That new position sounds pretty nice and dandy, right? Not to Walter. He told the king that there's only one power that could truly appoint people to those positions: God. He accepted the position, though, either because someone else in the church told him to, or because he saw a sign that God wanted him there. Even though he willingly took the position, he really wasn't that thrilled to be there. 2 times, Walter tried to leave Pontoise, perhaps 3, so that he could pursue a life of solitude. But each time, he had to return. His first attempt was to become a monk at Cluny under Hugh, who's also recognized as a saint now. His second attempt was to an oratory near Tours that was dedicated to Cosmas and Damian, known as the Basilica de Santi Cosmas e Damiano today. There is a fun little story that during one of these attempts, or maybe even a different attempt entirely, he was on the road to Touraine and then tried hiding on an island in the Loire, but was found. Finally, after exhausting all of his other ideas, he made his last effort, going to Pope Gregory VII in hopes that he could obtain permission to leave his position and pursue his desired life. But Pope Gregory told him that he had to use his talents God had given him. He was really good at his job, and they needed that. So Walter remained in that position as the abbot of Pontoise, and in that position, he wasn't afraid to speak up against what he thought was wrong. This eventually landed him in some hot water, though, when he openly opposed simony and the evil lives that the secular clergy was leading. And if you're like me and didn't really know what simony was at first, it's the buying and or selling of church positions or privileges, and it was named after Simon Magus from Acts. Walter wound up being beaten and thrown in jail for this outspoken opposition. When he was finally released, he led a life of mortification. He would spend full nights praying and pretty much only focused on God in everything he did. Now, this part here is just my interpretation based on the evidence, but it kind of sounds like Walter left Pontoise because of the simony that he was observing. He didn't want to be a part of it, he didn't want to witness it, but nobody would listen to him about stopping it. So, he basically just said, "Not my monkeys, not my circus," and walked out. But when that didn't work, at least twice, he tried one last effort, which also failed. Then he finally aired out the dirty laundry to everyone else, and that didn't go over too well, so they tried to shut him up and hide him from public view, but they couldn't just hide him away forever. He was the abbot of Pontoise. But yeah, again, they had to let him go at some point, so when he was released, he continued his efforts, and he tried to devote his life even more to God. In 1094, he founded a monastery for women at Cours-les-Dames, near Amiens, with the help of Godelinda and Elphage. Also, according to some written accounts, Walter wouldn't sit or kneel when he prayed. He would stand, and if anything, he would just lean against his staff. He was also known to spend hours in prayer, getting lost in it and sometimes being found asleep on the floor the next morning. But shortly after starting to found that new monastery, Walter passed away in 1095 before he could see it succeed. He was buried at the abbey in Pontoise, and several miracles were reported to occur at his gravesite, and these were predominantly healings. Sick or lame people would come to pay their respects, and suddenly they'd be relieved of any and all afflictions that they had. Something that I think is pretty cool is that Walter was the very last Western European saint that was canonized by somebody other than the Pope. He was canonized by the Archbishop of Rouen in 1153. He laid undisturbed until his body was moved in the French Revolution to the cemetery of Pontoise, and then he was lost to history. Today, there's a college now standing as an oration foundation in his honor. His feast day is April 8th, and he's the patron saint of prisoners, POWs, vintners, which is winemakers, and against job-related stress. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. So, what do you think of Saint Walter of Pontoise? Did you also find it kind of funny that he was basically told that he had to continue his work because he was too good at it? Like, it's kind of a, I don't know if I'd say it a backhanded compliment, but it's just a funny way of putting a compliment. And I hope you found Walter's story interesting. I look forward to learning your thoughts on Saint Walter. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to support the channel, you can subscribe, download the episode, like, comment, share it with your friends, or send me a suggestion on a saint to check out by emailing me at sanctifiedpodcast@proton.me. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Podbean, and more. I upload once a week, every Thursday. Take care, and have a wonderful day.